It's not about what you have. It's about who you have. It's not about where you live. It's about how you live. And it's not about what you do. It's about why you do it. Welcome to the Momentasize Podcast. On episode 1, I've brought together the people who have helped me dream bigger than I've ever thought I would be able to. Not only have they helped me dream, they've showed me how to do it, and then they showed me how to put action behind it. They've supported me in all those things. And so without further ado, for episode 1 on the Momentasize Podcast, please help me welcome Chris and Erin Velde.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to the podcast.
This is exciting. Podcast 1.
Podcast 1. Well, let's get right into it. I think people really want to know, how did a school teacher and a professional golfer end up building what is today the #1 resort in the Pacific Northwest?
Well, I think you have to start with the crazy ass dream, and have that crazy ass dream, have it go a certain direction, and then you need the team and the work behind it. And what we're fortunate about, I'm the dreamer, crazy ideas. Erin's got crazy ideas and dreams too, but she has this uncanny ability to take those dreams and bring them to fruition in a very detailed, organized, good for the organization, understanding how people, how our members, how our guests, how people are going to experience this. And that's what she did so well. And actually, I think that comes from kindergarten. You teach kindergarten kids, you're actually responsible for taking this human being, a young human being, and teaching them how to, act in a social setting, learn how to read. Parents want them to read by the end of the kindergarten, and function with other people. And I think that experience, and she's exceptionally good at that. And then take that and have to deal with me. I'm probably the oldest kindergartner she knows.
You might be right about that. I have a slightly different answer. It wasn't our dream, actually, to build a resort ever. So sometimes you have your dreams, and then reality, you live within reality, and then you adjust your dreams based on some of the opportunities that are put in front of you. So for me, sometimes dreams are just the how of how you do something. And I think Chris's dream was to own his own golf course. And when that opportunity finally became available after his golf career was complete, we were given that opportunity to build a golf course. And with that, all these other opportunities kind of arose. And because I think we both believe in excellence, we want to expect excellence from ourselves. And we want to take a lot of pride in what we do. That drive for doing the best at whatever it is that we're doing helps us to set the bar pretty high at whatever we're doing. I felt that way as a mother. I felt it was my responsibility to my children to provide the best environment I could provide with what I had. I felt that way as a kindergarten teacher. I felt that way when I literally worked at Wendy's and when I worked in a bookstore. It doesn't matter to me what I'm doing, as long as I'm doing the best I can, as long as I maintain a learner's attitude and take pride in my work. And I think that those are some of those. So when an opportunity comes to build a resort, you can bet we're going to try to do the best thing we could do.
Yeah. Well, you guys have definitely led by example for both your children, but the people around you. Now, everybody sees the success of the resort on the back end, right? But nobody gets to see what it took to actually get here. Tell us a little bit about what that was like. Were there any sleepless nights when you were doing it? Did you ever feel like quitting? And what was the progression to get to becoming the #1 resort in the Pacific Northwest?
Were there any sleepless nights? That's a past tense question. There's still
there still are?
There's still sleepless nights, because you still got to keep, it's it's an everyday industry. You are always trying to sharpen the saw. You're always trying to keep your pulse on your business. You always want to grow and improve and make sure your employees are doing great, make sure your product is what it needs to be to keep with the times. So I think I have more sleepless nights than Chris possibly, but I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah, mine are revolved around you not sleeping. So,
yeah, I mean, you try to balance your life, right? You try
I learned to sleep whenever I could on the airplane or wherever I was when I was, in my previous career. So I'm okay.
But yeah, there was definitely moments. I mean, we bought the golf course during the recession, the big recession that a lot of people forget about now, because I think. And then we had that other fun thing that happened a couple of years ago called the pandemic, and to be in the industry we're in during a pandemic was certainly provided us with lots of opportunities to not sleep.
No, Erin's correct. I mean, when we started, we have one partner, Willem Willemstein, lives in the Netherlands, and I sold him on the idea that we could buy this golf course and then build this resort, and he's my best friend. And at a certain point, what happens is you end up trying to make it work in an economy that was struggling, and the resort wasn't built to fruition yet. It hadn't come to fruition. And all of a sudden you're sitting there going like, okay, I got to have another capital call. Those were really sleepless nights for me. And those were, painful, and thank goodness we got through it. And we're on the other side, about 6-7 years ago, we started turning the corner, and it's been a great run since then. But even from those first years, it's like, hey, let's buy this, let's do this next. And it's hard, but it was good. It's worth it. You look back at it, you go, okay, yeah. Jimmy Buffett has a saying, wrinkles only go where the smiles have been, in one of his songs. And, it is. You laugh and you play and you work hard and you get through all the stuff. We've been through so many ups and downs, but it's just the memories of all the good things. You try to keep those going. And that's, so I think we've both got our own wrinkles, and we're still, for the most part, we still have a lot of fun doing it.
Good. Looking back, is there anything you would change? Any lessons you've learned that you could help people with? Any adjustments?
Am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
You can do anything you
Fuck
want.
yeah. Of course, there's a lot of fucking things I would have changed. I look back at it and I go, I was a professional golfer, and I came to this and I had ideas, and I was not a leader that understood. I wasn't emotionally attuned to everything I needed to be attuned to with my partner, with employees, with different people in different levels. So then you make decisions, and you make leadership decisions based on some logical, rational thing in the back of your head that you think is the right thing. And you're not taking into account all the other stuff. So I think great leaders are ones, and I'm learning this. I'm still, like Erin said earlier, we're both lifelong learners, and I'm still learning. I'm still working really hard on my own development as far as can I bring some kind of emotional attunement coupled with my logical understanding and business acumen of a decision. Bring those three together, you become a great leader. If you're just leading from one of those three, if you don't, we're the biggest asset we have as humans, and the biggest problems we have as humans. So if we're not dealing with that emotional side, then you're missing out.
Say that again. The biggest asset we have,
humans,
and the biggest
challenges we have, problems we have, are humans.
Yeah,
you're dealing with humans. It's like
including ourselves.
Including ourselves. Yes, a partnership, and it is a partnership. Even though there's times when I've done stuff that didn't feel like a partnership to Erin, and those are things you look back and you wish you could have done better. Thank goodness we're still together. We still love each other, and we are functioning going forward as better partners. I think I'm a better leader. I look at raising kids. When we raised you and our other two children, you look back and you go, wow, did I do that? Was I thinking like that? Or, and you just keep progressing, and you just have to keep that be a lifelong learner. That's my message.
Yeah, I think there's always things you wish you did differently. Mine mostly come from parenting because I'm kind of a back of the house thinker. I maybe stop thinking too much would be my thing. I would want to change. But I think for me, what was helpful for me, since I'm such a detail person, sometimes I'd ruminate too much. And at some point, the phrase, "this too shall pass," showed up in my life from some books and some talks and whatever. And taking that to heart a little bit is really valuable, both in the positive and negative pieces of life, because this too shall pass helped me through a few of the parenting challenges that I had when I was home alone a lot, where, just sometimes it was lonely, sometimes it was just overwhelming. But if you realize that things eventually do change, and, trying to stay in the present and enjoy the juice and the mess and the chaos of certain pieces of home life or business life, I would tend toward perfectionism, thinking, everything's supposed to be a certain way. And a lot of people in our society, maybe not a lot, but some people in our society think that way. Or a lot of, the perfectionists want everything perfect because they think life's going to get better if it's perfect. And I finally learned how to live in the moment a lot better and appreciate the moment and understand, especially like my little babies, that too was going to pass and I was going to miss it. Same with business, a really great phase of business will also pass, but so will a really hard part of business, as long as you're consistently sitting there, taking a look at things, trying to keep your attention at the right level and make thoughtful decisions for yourself, for your team, and for your business. So,
yeah, those are great insights. Take us back to before the resort, when you were starting your family. Being an entrepreneur is always challenging, and chasing dreams comes with some really, really hard behind the scenes stuff. Take us back to the beginning, the very beginning, before the resort. What was that like? What was that from both the history side, but also just talk to us about what that was like and how that all unfolded for you.
I could start. Not everybody has a passion as strong and deep as Chris. He was going after a dream to be a professional golfer, and that's a big dream, and it requires a lot of dedication. It's an individual sport. You need a whole team behind you. Not that we necessarily fully understood that when we were doing it, but Chris has a special. He has a special intensity and devotion and dedication to that. He did certainly for that dream. And I, young in love, went like, okay, well, let's go for it. I'll help you. Like, I want to have a family. I want to be a teacher, but so because a dream like that kind of requires you to go all in. I was game, and it we worked really hard. We started a family, and I kind of took the family, and he kind of took the dream, and we divided and conquered. It was hard and fun and crazy, but we learned a lot about each other because we had to really stay focused on a really, really clear destination. And that's helpful, actually. And we had to figure out how to get there pretty much as a really solid team. So from my perspective, having such a clear destination was helpful. When the destination became less clear, with a resort and how to get there and the measurables aren't quite as obvious, then you have to get more creative. It always requires creativity, I guess. But that's my thought.
Yeah, that's a great thought. And I think that's, when we first met, I was aspiring to be a golf, touring professional golfer. And,
I didn't really know what that was. I thought I'd marry a banker or something.
Wow, that might have been a lot safer for you. Yeah. So, well, actually, what happened with the banks in 2008 might have been worse for you. Anyways, I think professional golf, any professional sport, any dream you have is one of those things where you're going all in. And then you need to be able to break it down. And fortunately, I married someone who's really good at puzzles. I mean, really good. And she's brilliant at breaking things down. And, at some point in my career, I kept having, you have these, I think Bob Rotella wrote it in one of his books, or somebody said it was like, hot streaks aren't anything more than they aren't like just lucky. They're an insight into the player's full potential. And so I knew at a young age that I didn't start playing golf till I was 19, but by 19, 20, 21, I had shot some phenomenal scores. So I knew that the potential was there, but I didn't have the experience, and I didn't have the understanding of what I needed to get for my own game. And what Erin and I did well, she caddied for me for 2 years, which was, that's just nuts. But, there's I see a couple couples on tour doing that now. And I think that it's a lot of admiration, because that's hard. And I think that's helped us now work the last 10, 15 years together at the resort. But it brings other challenges, because you don't get away from each other. You're working on the same stuff. And back to the whole puzzle piece, Erin was able to take golf and help me break it down. I mean, I've got a pretty analytical brain. I like to break things down. And we broke it into a system. I like systems for everything. And I broke it into a system that I called Total Golf. And I used it for coaching after I finished playing, but literally took my swing and said, okay, this is how I set up, take away every aspect of the swing, and then short game and putting and mental and physical. And so you got full swing, short game, putting, mental, psychological part of the game, and then diet. You got course management in the mental part of the game, diet and physical fitness. So you have to have all those 5 categories, and they have to blend. And we did a great job together of actually wrapping a bow around that, putting it in, and it sort of, it took a few years. And then at the end of my career, I actually had a lot of confidence that I knew what I was doing and how I could do it and how I could perform under pressure. And it worked well. I mean, I never won at the tour level, which, I won the tour school one year, which counts as a win, but I wish I had, I wish I knew, if I had the knowledge that I had when I was, let's say 22, 3, 4, 5, that I had when I was 33, 4, 5, it's a different animal. And, I think part of that's growing up. And you see a lot of golfers now coming out of 19, 20-year-olds with talent coming out of school, and they have that total package, they're ready to go. And that's what you need. You need to develop systems in a package. And we did that really well together. And I think a lot of that helped us later when it came to the resort, because we really, boiled things down, and we knew how hard it was. We knew how one of the best books we ever read together, Erin got for me at a young age, is, The Road Less Traveled. And that, it starts with life's difficult. We talked about how good things are, but there's also there's going to be challenges thrown at you. If you're not willing to take on those challenges head on and work through them together, or even alone, or whatever, however you look at it, it's going to be a very, your life's going to be challenging if you're not willing to take on difficult situations.
Yeah. But I think it's the idea of being able to, I think the other thing that we finally we're able to learn with a little bit of maturity is, life is difficult sometimes. It's just freaking hard. It's tiring. You don't have enough money. You don't have enough resources, whatever. But when you can figure out how to turn those obstacles, those difficulties, take a look at them and shift your perspective slightly, somehow, and turn them into opportunities instead of just a difficulty that you can't get through. Once we learned how to do that and shift our perspective around difficulty, I think it made a big difference for us, and I think that was just a life maturity thing, somehow for us as a team.
You said something there that I want to unlock for our listeners. For anybody that's young, just starting their family, they have dreams, but right now they feel a little bit stuck. They don't know where to get started, and they just need some advice. You said something there, Pop, that you said that as you got older, if you could have gone back and told the 25-year-old you some stuff that would have helped, what would you tell somebody that's in that position? What would you tell them? What advice could you give them?
Well, I think the biggest advice I'd give somebody is be open to other ideas. I mean, you call it, your coach in college called it a blueprint. Make your own life blueprint. Make some kind of plan. Get a system. And for me, I called it a system. I needed. You can't just go through life without some kind of structure, or plan, or idea. You can have a goal and a dream. It's like one of the things that some psychologists I read about talked about an airplane. So you fly an airplane, it goes from New York to LA. It's on autopilot, Stephen Covey and probably The Road Less Traveled or something. But it's like, it's always autocorrecting along the way. It's never directly on course. It's always autocorrecting. So you're always autocorrecting. And you're always, so get a system, get a plan, get a framework around it. You might have to rework it. You might have to redo it and be ready to pivot and work right, work left, but don't lose focus of the end goal. So that was, for us at that time, was professional golfer. When we got here, it was, how do we build a phenomenal resort?
No, it wasn't. It was, how do we build a phenomenal golf course? And then all of these things happen and we're like, dang, we have to build a resort. And then we're like, how do we do that?
But it's that you talked about earlier. You've always striven for excellence in everything you do, whether you're working at Wendy's or you're working at the resort. And one of my favorite quotes that I learned as a young kid, most people on this podcast won't know it, but Dr. J, Julius Erving, was a Philadelphia 76er. And he had this quote, and I lived with it for a long time. And that's basically, I demand more of myself than anybody else will on a daily basis. I demand more of myself than you or you or you. And that drives me. I don't care how mature and vintage I become. If I'm demanding more of myself on a daily basis than anybody else around me, I mean, you see me, I call it the old man shuffle. I go for a jog and I try to beat my own time. It's like, it's a fire that burns inside you. You need to keep that focus on that fire inside you and be excellent at it. And Erin has that. I mean, she had it with her school. She had it with everything she does. And you put that combination together and it just turns into some, stir the pot up and you get some pretty cool soup when you're done.
Yeah. When I look at success and successful people, I think they have exactly what you said. They have a blueprint, and then they have a combination. The formula that they bring is obsession plus discipline plus consistency. There's a story that I know about you, and I don't even know if you told me this. I think it came elsewhere, but when you were playing golf, there's a story. You were so obsessed with becoming the best you could become. You were putting one day, and you're doing your putting routine. It was after you'd already trained all day. And as the sun was setting, this story was told to me, you were supposed to make a certain amount of putts in a row before you could go home. Mm-hmm. The problem was the sunset. So you had this issue. You trained all day and the sun had set on you. You didn't make your putts. And so what I heard happened was you took money, which at that time you missed like 17 cuts in a row.
Let me tell you, $5 was whatever, $10.
And I heard you put it in the hole.
Yeah.
And you put it there because the sun had set, but you needed to be there before the greenskeepers got there. So you get your your 5 guilders back.
5 guilders back, yep.
And make your putts.
I did. And I know who told you that story. Here's John Bucker.
That's right.
And he's just a good friend. He was a good soccer player, really good club pro.
He was with us in that time of our lives.
And he would push me. He would want to chip against me. He would make himself better. But he remembered how driven I was. And I was. I had, you are right, discipline. Again, have that picture, have a goal, but you need to have some kind of drive toward it. Erin's drive for excellence, my drive for excellence, and discipline. Because the discipline, I think, when times get tough, I had to make 25 in a row from 5 feet. My back was hurting. I was tired, and I didn't get it done. So I made sure that I got up the next morning, and thank goodness the 5 guilders was still in there. I got there before the greenkeepers. I needed to go buy a loaf of bread so you could eat.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are that is a good story. I don't think I ever told. I think there's guys that thought I was nuts, but that's part of it.
It's what it takes, right?
Yeah.
It's a level of obsession. And there's another great quote that always talks about, like, everyone thinks you're crazy until what you have in your mind comes true. And then they all come and support you, right? I mean, because even on that journey as a professional golfer, you didn't start that career, the golfing career, till you were 19. That's extremely unheard of to have that happen. You were a runner before that, right? And so it's an interesting. I'm sure a lot of people thought you were crazy. Just trying.
My siblings. I mean, my siblings thought I was nuts. I mean,
Your father thought you were nuts.
My father thought I was nuts. My mother and my wife. I didn't know her till I was already a professional golfer, but I was 19. My mother and my siblings were like, "What?" Even I went back to college, and the assistant athletic director was the golf coach, and he goes, "So you're the track kid that wants to play golf now?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I walked on and made the team. I'd been on scholarship in running, and that was great. And but I had that vision, and what I would do is I had systems. I had a disciplined practice regimen. Even in the middle of the winter, I built an indoor batting cage in my apartment where I could hit balls all winter and train my swing. Because I was behind the curve. A lot of these guys I was playing against had been playing since they were 5, and I had to get repetition. Repetition is the mother of skill, and I needed to really get a swing that I could hold under pressure. And that batting cage, it's that little door there. It's 3x4, 4x4. Maybe 3x3. I could hit shots through a window of trees when I was under pressure in tournaments. I would go back into my apartment in Boston and go, "Wow, I can." That gap's bigger than that batting cage I used to hit into. I can hit it through that hole. So and that helped me recover some shots. That actually in business, because I know you talk about business a lot with people. That actually helped me in business with risk stuff, risk management. There was a time when I would just jump into any deal and think, "Oh, I can do this, do that." That whole shot through a window that I kind of get it through that small tight area.
Yeah.
What I developed when I was playing was my risk management was this: if I can't hit that shot in my head confidently 50% of the time or more, I shouldn't try it. Because my natural ability can make up for some of the stuff. But if I'm thinking 30, 40, even 50-50, it usually has to be more than 50%. I want it to be like 51 or 2, and I'll go for that shot. Same with a business deal. If I look at a business deal, because there's deals that come across and you go like, "Whoa, that's a great deal. Wow, cool. That. Can we pull it off? Can I pull that deal off with the right partnership, the right people, the right amount of time and work, and do it more than 50% of the time?" If I say no, then I'm probably like, even though I like that deal, I think it's cool, I'll walk away from it. And that's hard. I mean, because that's the same as that shot. I better chip out to the fairway to the left here and take a 1-shot penalty, just for hit it in the woods, take your medicine, hit it out there and try and save par.
Yeah. I mean, when I was caddying for you, I used to weigh the risks, and you had to train me. We had to train each other how to ask the questions. Like, where do you want to miss it? What percentage, is between 6 and a 7 iron you want to hit? Where do you want to hit it? Where do you want to miss it? Do you want to go long or short? And even though they're different kinds of questions, you ask those same questions in different fields, but you're always weighing what the result is based on
risk reward.
Yeah. Based on what the options are for your decision. So
what I'm hearing you guys say is it's a game of probabilities.
Exactly, it is. And here's a quote that I learned on tour, and I read it somewhere. I think it was Ben Hogan who wrote this one, but he said, it could have been David Graham. Anyway, one of the two. The players that win the tournament on a given week aren't the ones that hit the best shots. Every pro out there is going to hit great shots, phenomenal shots. It's the one that had the best misses of the week. So you miss a shot and you miss it in the right place, you can miss a par. You miss a shot and you hit it a foot out of bounds. Now you just had to reload and you cost you 2 shots. So it's like it's those things. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and everybody fails and everybody misses shots and everybody makes bad decisions. It's just part of life, right? So how do you mitigate some of that? And then how do you recover? How do you recover from your failures? And how do you recover from the things that don't go well? That's the other piece of the whole puzzle. I mean, sometimes I think society looks at people who are successful and they don't necessarily imagine that there's been a whole journey behind their path to a certain level. That there's been a lot of sacrifice, that there's been failures, that there's, I think sometimes we look at people and go, oh, they're just successful. I want to be like that. And we don't take the moment to really own the fact that everyone who's successful has a journey of successes and failures and dedication and grit and it's not easy. We don't need to. That's what worries me for young people on social media sometimes is that it looks very glamorous, but there's a lot behind it. And it takes time and patience and focus and vision and creativity to do anything well.
There's a great saying that ties into what you said there. It's, the grass may look greener, but what if it's AstroTurf?
Right? I haven't heard that one yet. I like that one.
So you gotta watch out.
Social media's got a lot of AstroTurf.
Exactly.
Oh,
so
wow.
There's a little twist on that one for you. Yeah.
Oh, dang.
So we talked a lot about the beginning there. We talked about the business side, making the dream come true on the professional golfer in the resort. Talk a little bit about, at the same time, the home life and the parenting. What is it like when you move, to give people some context? My mother and father, they went from the United States, moved to the Netherlands. And for my mother, it was a place she didn't speak the language. She'd never been there. And now she's going to raise her children there, not knowing the language. What was that like? And just talk us through that a little bit.
Sometimes what you don't know, it's better to not know and just go for it.
Say it one more time.
Sometimes it's better to just not know what you're getting into and just be optimistic and go for it. I think for me, what's helpful is that as terrifying as that idea was for me, because I am a low risk person, I've always been curious about other cultures and countries. So I had a belief within me that said, it's an interesting world out there. Go explore it. And so then I had to tell myself, well, if you actually have that belief, then you better not be a chicken and have a go, Erin. And so I was willing to go, and I gave birth to my first child there, which was, let me tell you, very very scary, very different from a cultural perspective.
The doctor didn't speak English.
The doctor's English was not great, and my Dutch was less than that. And Chris's
no internet.
My Dutch was good enough to be dangerous, but
sign language goes a long
This
way.
isn't what you couldn't Google Translate at this time. This is before that.
The internet, was not there. Like there was, this is 1991, which I'm getting older, but it cost me after our daughter was born at home, we called home to say that we had a baby girl. I think that phone call and calling all of our family cost me like $300, which we didn't have, This is a different time, but, I was a curious person, so I was willing to take some chances. It was exciting. It's when you're young, a lot of things are super exciting and you're willing to just have a go. It was lonely. It was hard to be a pregnant woman on tour, which is where I was with Chris. I was caddying a lot until I was 6 months pregnant.
Did you say you were, just so everybody hears it, you were
pregnant on tour?
Caddying.
I was caddying until I was 6 months pregnant. Yeah.
Meaning you're carrying the bag.
No, they let me pull a trolley. Okay. On the European tour, I could pull a trolley at that time.
So this wasn't just like trying to get on the tour. This is you're on the European tour. You got your tour card and now you're traveling around Europe pregnant and caddying at the same time, figuring out probabilities of what shot to hit.
And we're not staying at the Four Seasons. Let me just tell you that. And there was no Airbnb.
When she started the show in the caddy bib. Yeah. I didn't want people thinking my caddy was a drunk and had a beer belly, so I had to.
Or is working his pregnant wife.
He's working. That's more it.
It's really the truth. But with the optics of that wasn't real great. No, I don't know. We just did it. It was exciting. It was crazy. But we did it. We had a family, a young family. I had a little baby girl, and it's not like I picked up the phone to call my friends because it was too expensive. So really, I just had to learn how to do it. I learned a lot of language. There are a lot of people who come to our country who don't speak our language, who do those things. And to be honest, I just use people, other people as inspiration. Immigrants come to all kinds of countries and are in that situation. And I thought, well, I just had to talk myself into being courageous. And not that it was easy, but I thought it was a good learning opportunity for me. And then then we had you a couple of years later. And so I couldn't travel anymore with Chris. And when we moved back and forth a few times, but when we got back there, when you were 2 and Alexis was starting preschool, she's like, Mom, I got to get it to school. So I took her to Dutch school and I couldn't read any of the notes that they brought home. And, once I finally got an actual dictionary, Dutch dictionary, it took me about an hour and a half to translate the sentence and a half that they sent home. And it said and that was, after I'd taken Alexis to school and nobody was there. So I went back and looked at the note and it said, the next 2 weeks there'll be vacation. So you don't have to show up. So, you do some really stupid things and you look at yourself and you go, holy cow. And your dad's off trying to be a golfer. I'm He's trying to make money on tour. You're rubbing your pennies together, hoping more come to, something is born of that. And you just do it. And you remember, for me, family is really important and child development is really important. And because I'm an educator of young children, I really value the opportunity to be around for raising my children the first 3 years of life. So 5 years of life, really. I really valued the opportunity to be a stay-at-home mom. I had to work sometimes because we just needed some extra money to come in. But I really took the moments and time to learn the culture I was in. My children went to Dutch school. I had no idea what that meant. I didn't understand holidays. I didn't understand the language. I stood on the playground and no one would talk to me. It felt lonely. I told my friends in America, if there's a person standing by themselves and they don't look like they speak your language, just go say hi and be nice. Just please, for me, do me a favor. But eventually your kids make friends and they help build culture all around you. They learn the culture that they're going to school in. And then eventually life, starts happening. And if you embrace it, it's fantastic. And I learned to speak Dutch slowly by watching Sesame Street, and my kids, and you just do what you have to do sometimes. And that's probably my biggest lesson is sometimes you have to do what you have to do. If you know that raising your children is important to you and that your children, you just love and adore them, and your husband's got this other goal that he's trying to accomplish, you're in the trenches, but try to enjoy as much as possible, and find the juice, find the beauty in every day if possible. And some days that's real hard, but when you look back, because this too shall pass, you get there. Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I did some stupid things. But you guys made it. And I think we're all richer for it. Not financially, but emotionally and socially.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. One thing I want to touch on, you have big dreams, you create a blueprint. We know you need to be obsessed with it. We know you need to have consistency. We know you need to be disciplined around it. But what happens when nothing's going to plan, right? And everything seems like it's falling apart, and doubt comes in, and ideas that you can't make it come in. For example, what I want you to talk about is the dream was to get on the European tour. You get on the European tour, you make that dream happen, and then you miss 17 cuts in a row, meaning that's no money coming in, 17 in a row. How do you not quit? How do you not give up? Touch on that and the lessons there.
So I think that goes back to that.
Sort of be missing a little screw here.
Nah, few screws. Yeah, few screws loose. But back to that Dr. J quote. Demand more of myself than anybody else will, and push myself through it. And what I think, when things aren't going well, you can fold tent and go home if you want, or you can look to others. So part of when I was doing my total golf and golf my way and stuff, I was trying to figure out how to write those things and figure it out. I would watch other players, and I at a certain point I noticed, Ian Woosnam. He's a guy of short stature, maybe 5'5", 5'6", won the Masters. Seve, tall, lanky Spaniard. Velde, even taller, 6'4", and then a lot. So or longer than the mechanic, the machine, just doing everything his way. But they all had different swings. And Greg Norman, they all had. But so what I started doing is, okay, how do you develop? Because they went through dips too. You talk to them. I think one thing I taught you, and one thing I don't ever be afraid to ask a person who's had success how they did it. I guarantee you, a person who's successful, if they see how hard you're working and trying to get somewhere, they will open up their mind and their heart and their thoughts to you and help you get better. I mean, I went in the bunker with Seve, best bunker player of all time, and he showed me how to hit shots. I went on, played practice rounds with Bernard Longer, probably one of the best course management players of all time. And he had a compass with him in the practice round. He would look for northwest, the direction of where the wind. Then he'd look at teletext, which was before internet, where the wind was coming from, and he'd know I have a 1:00 tee time. The wind's coming out of the southwest, but it's going to turn to the east at 4:00. So when I get to the back nine, the wind's going to be in this direction. So you're planning your course management, your strategy. So I would go and keep, sure, I had a really rough first year, but I wanted to learn from this guy what he did, this guy what he did. And that made me a better player, but I think all of that made me even a better coach when it came to coaching, because that's what I got into after, a 12-year playing career. Then I coached for multiple years, and that's where I had the most success, taking really talented young players and teaching them how to play and how to develop their total golf game. So, yeah, to answer your question, you have to just keep learning and figuring out and ask for advice. And there's unless you're Henry Ford and you're trying to figure out how to make an automobile for the first time, or the Steve Jobs trying to figure out how to make an interfaced computer. Those are inflection points in history, but most of things we're trying to do, someone has done them before us, and they will have a blueprint or a plan, and you can ask them. You can read about it. You can Google it. If you have a dream and you want to go for something, and you have some talent toward it, that sickening work ethic on a daily basis will get you there.
Paired with the grit, right? Because most people, when you miss a cut, if you miss 17 in a row and you're trying
it's a gut punch.
It's a gut punch and you're trying to put food on the table, you're trying to make it happen, all the doubt comes in. And one thing that I found...
Cloth diapers. You can wash them.
Cloth diapers so you can wash them. But the funny thing about success is it doesn't happen in a linear fashion. So it doesn't show up. You're putting all this effort in. It's not a linear result, right? So you're putting all this effort in, and it typically happens in this exponential moment.
Yeah.
Right? So you've been pushing it. You didn't give up. Most people would give up. As long as you stick with it, continue to learn, live the growth mindset. Like you said, find people who have been where you want to go, and then you don't give up. Boom, the success happens in an exponential moment, because you went from 17 cuts to you became the best player in the Netherlands for a stint there, number one.
Yeah, and there's some kind of inflection point, and for me, I know what it was. It was when I figured out the swing, I figured out putting, short game. I had all these things. The missing piece for me at that point was my mental approach. And I took all these books and things that I'd read and finally boiled it down into a one-pager. And I would read it to get my mental mindset going before the day so that I wouldn't have a player that at level I was at, I couldn't understand how, if I shot even par, that should have been a bad day. If I made 4 bogeys, 4 birdies, that was awful. But I was having rounds that I'd lose the plot and I'd shoot 76 or 7, then you miss the cut for sure because not for sure, but you had to shoot 65 the next day to make the cut. So if your off day is 72, 73, then you can recover from that. So that inflection point was, now that I've read all these books, all this stuff, I need to come up with my own, again, system, mindset, read through it, mental mantra. We've talked about this, I think it was Napoleon Hill, and he talks about auto suggestion and reading it. So I would actually I'd read that and heard that from Napoleon Hill, and I would read that out loud. My caddies after Erin thought I was nuts. I'm walking to the first tee and I'm reading this note card, index card that I had in my book, telling myself, okay, you're going to get bad breaks. This is what you do. This is going to happen, and great players have the ability to let all that roll off their back. And I called it Chris Vanderbilt's tournament golfer's creed. And I think everybody should have their own work creed or something that gets you, you can have all the pieces, but if you're missing that one little special sauce piece, the mental part was my last piece, and that got me over the hump. And then I had a good run for, several years, and I still use that today. I still can go out there and get it around the golf course, especially you don't get influenced by mental shortcomings.
Yeah, you said something there. When I study the best athletes, best performers, best business people, just best people in general, they figured out a way to not get too high and not get too low in their emotions. Stick in the game, not get too high, not get too low, and stick in the game, never quit, right? And I think that there's a special formula there. Okay, so we've talked about the beginning, we talked about the resort in general, and you guys are now at an interesting phase of life where you've actually just put the resort up for sale, right? That's probably a pretty crazy feeling. Tell us a little bit about that decision, and then I'm sure people want to know what's next as well.
Well, it's another phase where you never know exactly what's going to happen. So you prepare yourself for a lot of different options. We and our family have invested a lot of time and energy and creativity and money in building this resort. And we're getting older, so I think we're looking for a little bit more free time. And we also believe that we have given the resort as much as we can give it the best, we've given it the best of us. And we know that there are companies out there that run resorts for, as a passion. And the golf part of the resort is Chris's passion. And so while our goal is to maintain the golf course component and partner up with some people on the resort, people say we put our fourth child up for sale. It's emotional, certainly. It's exciting because when I think about the fact that somebody who really does hospitality in a resort with as much passion and commitment and hopefully expertise and professionalism more than what we have, they can bring something really exciting to the property and take it to the next level. Sometimes I think you have to know when to cut to know when you've met the end of something. And I feel like we're pretty close to that, the things that we can offer. And I think that'll free us up to do a few other things. For me, I don't know exactly what that is.
What are they for me?
You and Willem and Dirk, you guys are like career entrepreneurs. And opportunity is around every corner. And so I think for you, it frees up time and resources so that you can explore other opportunities. And also just when you get a little older, you kind of go, okay, well, what's next? We have been hardcore workers, investing in this asset and the development of this asset. And it's just a new phase of life, I think, in some ways.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think
for me.
Well, for you, I'm pretty sure that whatever you do, you're going to do it with extreme excellence, like you've done everything in your life. And I think that we have the Coast Project. We're working on a community there, and I think we'll end up with a really cool place for people to connect and live there. And I think that that's one of the things that we do well together is we do both have that drive.
We can learn from our mistakes too at Depot.
Yeah.
Like we get to take what we learned here, try it in a new place.
Right. Which is nice.
Yeah.
And I think we'll have more fun doing it. We'll have, more time. You're shaking your head like you don't think I'm going to have more time. I'm learning how to fly. I'm going to, I keep pushing myself. I'll get, keep flying faster in different places, more deals. But I think selling the resort is, I think you said it very eloquently, finding a partner that has the passion, understands how to run the hospitality end of things in a very efficient, excellent manner is what we're hoping for. And then we can, do the golf and do a few more deals.
I have another thought. We can't actually answer that question with tons of clarity because we're in it and we don't know exactly.
And there's sleepless nights.
And there's still sleepless nights. But it's an example of the fact that that's what happens. Like in life, like you made a decision. The resort is up for sale. We evaluated all our thoughts and we made a decision. We stepped in a direction. We don't know what the outcome is going to be. We're going to have to evaluate what that is and then understand why we made that decision. And so there's unknowns out there. And, in a year we'll be able to look back and go, oh, that's how that went. And now we know what we're doing. But there is, for someone like me, a risk taker is more comfortable with the uncertainty. For me, I'm less comfortable with that uncertainty. It's very interesting types of personalities that we have. But this is an example of, there's no 2020 ability to evaluate where we are right now in some ways because we're in it. And being in it is partly the exciting part, partly the scary part. And we don't know what the answer is going to be. We don't know where this ship is going. We're charting our course, but talk to us in a year and we'll be able to answer. We'll be able to look back and go, yeah, oh, that's how that played out.
Yeah. Well, good that you got it down. We'll see you guys back here in a year for sure.
Shoot.
Dang. I want to, before we get into
with a glass of wine.
With a glass. Yeah, we'll go the glass of wine route a little early right now. So I want to touch on one more thing here. I think the best advice comes from people who have experienced it. And you guys have built what we see today. So I want to ask for a young man who is aspirational, who wants to build his own thing, whether it's a real estate development thing or a business thing. What advice do you have for him? And then for a woman who is supporting and helping build that dream, or is even part of that vision as well, what advice do you have for that woman?
You can go first.
For me, it's simple. My father taught me something at a young age. Believe in yourself or nobody else will. And that was a quote that stuck with me for a long time. Once you have that belief and once you have that conviction to get there, don't stop learning. Don't stop trying to figure it out. The answer will come. I mean, Thomas Edison spent 10,000 tries at the light bulb and finally figured it out.
Yeah.
There's plenty of stories like that around, but have that belief that he had the belief he could make light bulbs and just keep going for it. So, my father was a Dutch immigrant who moved to the U.S. and had, his own issues to deal with. He lived through World War II and saw some horrific things, and I wouldn't say he was a very cozy, warm guy, but he was probably one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. And when he said something like that, it stuck with me forever. It was when I was trying to make it on tour. He said it when I was in high school, when I was running and stuff like that. But then it was like, he also had another quote that was, if you can't lose, why are you playing the game? If there's no, what's the fun in winning if you can't lose the game? You need competitors. You need to have a competition out there. So you need those people pushing you. You need yourself pushing yourself. But really, it's that deep down core belief, because it's going to get hard. We talked about that earlier. There's going to be days like, well, how do I fold this down and get the hell out of Dodge? But you've got to believe that you're going for something and doing it. And if you have that belief and you have that desire to get there, you'll find a way. And that's what my quote would be to a young person. Is like, to a young Chris, it'd be the same thing my dad said. Hey, believe in yourself or nobody else will. And then learn and figure it out and get people around you to support you, because they will. And there's people, I mean, I'm fortunate that my wife is my partner. I mean, even though there's times when she didn't feel like I felt that way, it's the most important person to me. And the most important thing in your life is finding people you can team up with and get stuff done, because you can't do it alone. I mean, you're not going to get it done alone. And as a golfer, it's individual sport, so you feel like you should be. You need a whole team. Erin was talking about that earlier. You need all different kinds of coaches. I don't want to get into that, but yes, believe in yourself, figure out a system, be a lifelong learner, and just get it done.
Can you ask me the question again?
Yeah, to a young woman who is just started a family and is looking at becoming a mom or just became a mom, and also is working to help build these dreams that they're creating together in a partnership, what's some advice that you would have for her?
Well, for me, certainly, I think communication is a really big piece of the equation throughout any part of the relationship. So communicating about what's actually going on with your partner, making sure you're kind of trying to be clear about what's going on. Like, okay, this is what's important to me. This is what's important to you. This is what's important to us. And this is the direction we're trying to go in. And so having some clarity about that, and then being able to talk with your person about those things, talk about what's important about being a parent, talk about what's hard about, you're going to hear about what's hard, about being in business and trying to make the business work and all, because that just is the stuff you talk about a lot of times. You're going to hear about how hard it is to sit at home with little babies and they're crying and, oh my God, I need to be helped. I need to get some help. So communicate about what's hard, communicate about what the joys are, what the beauty is. Make sure you guys are on the same page as much as possible. You won't always be, but have a shared vision with your partner that you both buy into and understand how you're both contributing to that vision. Make sure that you're teammates and that you're respectful of what the other person is bringing to the party and that you also request that respect back. I think it's easy to imagine what happens in the business world. And a lot of times it's hard to remember how important raising children is. So it'll get emotional, but it's the most important job in the world for both parents. Because you're setting a stage. And just don't lose sight of the job that you have and its value, because society does not outwardly value that in a way that I think fills mothers up, especially mothers of young children. I was not the best mom of little babies. My sweet spot is once they get to about 3.5, 4, and then, and then till they're tweens. So those phases for me were really hard. I have friends who are baby mamas. I mean, the babies is the easy time for them. And then those toddlers through 5 is impossible. So, it is hard work. And remember that you're investing in the future of a human, your family, and your job is to raise a person that can function in society on their own, feel loved, work, and make contributions. That's what I thought my job was. So it has to be a team effort. Make sure your partner is helping you, and make sure you communicate about it. And know that they will grow up and you will miss some of those times you never thought you'd ever miss in your whole life. I actually don't change diapers anymore for my grandkids. That is somebody else's job. So that's a part I did a lot by myself. Some tasks you will never have to do again if you choose. Be patient, breathe, and find joy in every day.
Thank you for that. All right. I just want to leave the listeners with one resource. What's a book, business, personal, anything that's really influenced you?
Oh, I'm a reader, so there's a lot. But I think the first book for me that after The Road Less Traveled, that really switched my brain around. It's embarrassing to admit, but it was hard for me to understand the first time I read it. So I had to read it again. I was 30 years old. I was pregnant with you. And it was Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. We were looking for a way to be more effective and be more successful. And I just didn't understand some of the things that he wrote about. And there are some certain habits. I wasn't raised in kind of the same sport universe, so I didn't have certain skills and habits and quite as much discipline in my life as Chris did. And that book for me was a total game changer. And I loved it. It was really popular at the time too, so maybe that was true for a lot of folks. But I think Stephen Covey did a lot for people by writing that book.
Yeah. And for me, it's hands down a book called Endurance, about Ernest Shackleton's incredible voyage to the South Pole. I think it was with 43 people. And they spent 2 winters down there, and the ship sank in
the early 1900s.
In like 1912 or 15 or something. And they all survived. Every single person on the voyage survived.
You need to have like an alert. Someone reads that book.
It's a book that I read. I was playing the tour. I was actually playing in Australia. I just finished playing in Perth, Australia, and we had an apartment in Fort Myers, Florida for the winter, and then we would go to Holland in the summer. And the flight I picked up the book, started it in Perth, and I just couldn't put it down. Got back to Fort Myers, Florida, and read the last couple of pages to your mom.
No, I read the last couple pages to you.
I was falling asleep.
You were falling asleep on the couch.
But it's one of those books, and I've read it again. I've read it a couple of times. Just when you think life's too tough, what those people went through and the leadership that Shackleton showed, and he did it by example and put his own life at risk to save 43 people. So pretty crazy story.
Okay, so Endurance and the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, we'll link it in the notes as well. Just want to thank you guys for coming on the podcast. This is a step towards a dream come true for me, and there's no better way for me to kick it off than having the people who have supported me through this entire thing, people who have showed me how to dream, led by example, and I'm just so grateful and honored to have you on the podcast. We look forward to having you back a year from now as the adventure unfolds, and it'll be a good time.
If we did one thing really well, we taught you how to dream.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, you did. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. We'll see you on the next one, baby.